if I wake up one day and I look around and I say, well, this is the life that I have, well, this is the life that I've designed. And so if I want a different life, then I have to go design that life.
Hey everybody, it's Janet with Future Ready Consulting, and today I'm so excited that I have a guest on our podcast, Lindsey Newland from the Newland Company. Hey Lindsey.
Hello, happy to be here.
I'm so excited. So Lindsey, I've worked with Lindsey as a coach with Google and Main Street America. We've worked together for the last year. She's in Iowa and I'm in Ohio. And we've done some presentations together and met a lot, and we've had a lot of fun. So I thought it would be fun if we got together and talked about business a little bit. So, you ready to do that?
I'm ready.
All right, that sounds good. So, I think the main thing people might want to hear about is what is your business, and kind of how did that get started? You can start with what your business is and what you do for people, and that would be awesome.
Okay. Well, I own the Newland Company, which is a graphic design and website design business. I'm a freelancer. I like to work with primarily small businesses in small towns, and that's basically why I went into business to begin with, was to be of service to my community. And I've just recently, in the last couple of years, started a lot of entrepreneurship coaching and business coaching. So I teach people how to not only start their business, but also get to that point where they can start scaling and growing. And because not everybody is a beginner. And so just helping people get into that digital space so that way they can start growing their business.
I love that. I love that. That is what I'm passionate about currently as well. So that's why we get along so good.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, so what made you decide to kind of own your own business? Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm just a difficult person. I have a hard time getting along with people. It's kind of funny to say when you're a business owner, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs are the same way. I worked for about 23 years in the restaurant industry, and I got really, really tired of working the 50, 60-hour weeks and just being on call, on demand all the time. And even though I enjoyed the people and the customers and the regulars and developing those relationships with people, just got really tired and burned out with the restaurant industry. And at the time that I decided to go back to school, it's kind of an interesting story when I think back on it. I was sitting around really just watching too much television. And I thought, if I'm watching this much TV, then I could go do something. I could pick up a second job, or I could go do something else. And so I got to talking to my husband about, well, what do you think about me going and picking up a bartending job or something along those lines, just to kind of help the debt load and just give me something to do. And he said, I'd really like for you to do something that's a little bit more future focused than to just take yourself away from the family even more than you already are. And so I was looking into school, and I thought, at the time, I had never really even considered finishing out my bachelor's degree, but I was debating between an accounting degree or a graphic design degree. And I kind of asked around and asked some friends that there wasn't really anybody in our community that was doing the graphic design, and no one was really filling that space. But accounting was more a safer option in my head, I guess. So I asked a friend who is an accountant, and she said it's just boring. And that eliminated that option for me, because I just cannot do boring.
Nope.
And yeah, so I decided to go to graphic design school. I just did a random Google search for the top 10 graphic design schools in the country, and I ended up at Southern New Hampshire University online, and so I started about 3 weeks later. And so I was homeschooling my kids, and I was going to college, and I was running a restaurant 50, 60 hours a week. And then on top of that, my dad was dying at the same time. So during that time, that was an interesting experience. So
wow,
that's how I started on all this.
Wow, that's crazy. But I feel like a lot of the stories I hear, people are starting out of either a pain or a pain point or a crossroads, so to speak. It sounds like you kind of did that. You know, I tell people I don't play in the sandbox well with others too. So it's the same thing I said. I could probably give you a dozen people that would agree. But anyway, moving on. So that's cool. That's interesting. And so how long before you kind of had that business to where you could walk away from the restaurant thing? Like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, I finished school late in 2018, and then I got fired from my job in 2019, early in the year, which is I'm
Because of
sure.
COVID. Yeah, I mean, a
I
lot of people did all that.
I did. Well, my parents fired me, actually.
Oh, wow, there you go.
So
See, you left out the best part of that story. Okay.
I left, and then let's see, 2019, and then I basically like licked my wounds for about 6 months, and then it was time for me to go. But my business wasn't ready, and I wasn't personally ready to start a business at that point. I just kind of had been kicked out the door, and it was like time for me to kind of figure things out. And so I went back to work part-time for a restaurant that I had been at before I worked for my parents. And at that time, his parents or his mom was also dying, and so he needed a part-time manager to come on and just kind of like hold the fort down while he was out taking care of his mother. And so, but then I stayed on, and then COVID happened. So I
see.
And then, but my business really boomed during COVID. So there were some circumstances there that really kind of fell my way, and some businesses were closing during that time, and mine was like taking off. So
that's awesome. That's amazing. Okay. Well, so again, born out of a
necessity
or teeth or necessity. Wow. Okay. Well, that's I don't think your story is that different from a lot of the ones I've been hearing. You probably hear them from some of the people you work with. So, I mean, I think if everything's rolling great and we love our jobs and we don't go start a business because we're happy where we're at. So I think that's the story. So now what kind of services, so you kind of talked about this. So you do graphic design work, website design, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I do graphic design. When I first started, I was really nervous to do logos because it's kind of like naming your baby. You're going to have this logo and you're going to be slapping that thing on everything, and you're going to be that's like the face of your business. And I was always really nervous, but as my skill has grown, I'm excited to do people's logo now and help them develop their target market and figure out, okay, who are you talking to and what's your messaging, what's your voice and things like that. So that stuff is exciting to me now. And I know now how to do a comprehensive brand where it's not just your logo, you start, developing by color and you get the typography in there that communicates certain things. And so you're basically like just helping somebody get to know you and kind of connecting with someone on that emotional level. And that's how we do that through color and things. So on the graphic design side, I also really like doing business solutions, brochures and basically anything that you can print on paper. Those are the things I find that those are the things that are the most time consuming for business owners. And they want to just say, okay, like, can you just do this for me? So I like to do those things, just provide solutions and save people time and effort in developing those things. And then website, that was born out of also necessity. I didn't go to school or take any website design in school, but when COVID happened and everybody was trying to get their brick and mortar stores and their e-commerce situations online into the digital space, it was time for me to learn how to develop websites. So that's what I did. I started out designing on Squarespace, and then I now do basically all the platforms, because at one time or another, I've had clients that say, well, can you do Wix? Can you do this? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to learn on the fly. And so that's basically the philosophy that I've kind of developed over the last few years is I go out and I learn, or I start seeing what the need is and start learning those things. So right now I'm learning a lot about search engine optimization because I see that there's a huge demand for that. So it's like, okay, well, if this is where the market is going or the industry is going, and people are going to need this kind of service, okay, let me go equip myself so that way I can stay out ahead of what people need.
That's amazing. Yeah, I heard as long as we can stay 10% ahead, then we have something to teach or give
Yes, absolutely.
everyone else. Yeah, that's cool. So, um, that's great. And you've listed a lot of pain points that I'm seeing as well, website and all this. I find it interesting right now. I feel like if you own a phone, you got your phone, you could start a business, right? You could do videos, you could teach, you could create things. So there's a lot of people with a lot of great skills and knowledge out there that could start a business as long as they have a phone. Or if they can do cooking or other types of things. The thing that I'm seeing that is the struggle and pain point is there's so much tech you have to know to really support the business. Back in the day, right? If you could put newspaper ads or pay for that or just word of mouth, like, right? But now, if you don't know how to set up your website, if you don't know how to do some social media, if you don't know how to play some of those digital games, then it's really hard to get a lot of traction. So that's where I feel like the things that kind of you and I do allows that business owner to focus on what they're good at and what they're experts in instead of worrying about SEO and keywords and all those.
I do think that small businesses in small towns are also very underserved because once designers, they start to move more towards I want to say academy, but that's not right. They move towards the agency model. So they start out with their prices are low. And then as they grow in confidence, then their prices grow. And then it basically ices out an entire network of people who they're the one-man shop. They're the ones that are standing behind the counter, running the register and putting inventory out and paying attention to what's going on in their store. And so not a lot of times do they have the resources to just go, oh, let me go hire this agency or this person that doesn't even live in my town and doesn't even understand my network of people that I deal with every day.
Right.
That's kind of where the teaching model comes in. It's like, okay, I can make you a really pretty website, but oftentimes I hand that website over to you and then I check it 2 years later and it still looks exactly the same, even after I've taught you how to use it. And so having those educational resources are a little bit more of a middle ground, in my opinion. So that way people are being serviced, but they're also able to grow in their own knowledge and their own skill without having to go and hire someone or drop, thousands of dollars.
I agree. I like that. And I agree that the small business owner doesn't get a lot of support and has to go out and figure it all out. And so to have somebody like you there to do that kind of leads me to, can you kind of talk about I forget the name now, it's an academy or it's what you do once a year. Can you talk about that a little bit? That's pretty cool.
Yes, I get very excited to talk about the Business Builder Academy. In Ottumwa here, we have something called the Business Builder Academy, and it was developed out of actually in the Main Street America world, we call it rip off and duplicate. And whenever you see another community that's in the Main Street network that's doing something that's fascinating to you, you're able to call them up and ask them questions and maybe even add something to your own community that is going to serve your community or your audience the way that to solve the problems that you're trying to solve. So that's what we did. Our director here, his name is Fred, and he went to North Carolina or Virginia to the Main Street America conference a couple years ago. And he came back with this idea from Marion, North Carolina. And we got on the phone with the director there and she sent us over her syllabus and kind of told us what the framework of her program is. They call it a GEM class. It's GEM, Growing Entrepreneurs Marion. And that's what they call their program. And so we took that information and we adapted it to what we need and the way that we felt would serve our community best. And we've run it for 2 years now, and we've started 15 new businesses.
What?
And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
last year I was a little bit concerned because we really need food concepts in our downtown. And this year, and we didn't have any. And so this
Mm.
year we've got four. We have a couple food trucks and a couple, like a bakery, and we've got several food concepts. And that is so exciting to get those people started and get them like into a storefront and get their businesses growing and stuff. So that's what we
So
do.
is it like a week long? Is it last all year? Can you kind of just really high level, like, what is that? What does this look like?
It's it's 4 weeks long, and it's every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., which it's really it's a very compressed accelerator program. You really have to commit to it because you have to be in order. Then there's a pitch contest at the end, and in order to
Hmm.
qualify for the pitch contest, you have to be there at 100% of the classes. And so it's and we have a whole syllabus and a track of what what kind of curriculum that we run. And so we start the first week with an overview of the business of a business plan, what it takes to put together a business plan. And it's interesting that when people who have even been in business for a little while, they've either never done a business plan or they've never found any value in doing one. We also
Interesting.
teach them how to do an elevator speech.
Mm.
So not only are you putting together your business plan, but you're also developing the ability to articulate what your idea is. Because a lot of times entrepreneurs they'll have this idea in their head for 10 years, 5 years, however long, but they've never actually opened their mouth and said it out loud. This is what I'm doing. This is who I serve. This is what my product is. And then every single time we have a new stranger that comes in or a speaker that comes in, that's what their job is. Every single class is to make sure that they have that elevator pitch ready to go. And so then they articulate that to that person when that's speaker that comes in. We cover things like we have a lawyer that comes, an insurance agent, a successful entrepreneur from the area to kind of come and give them like the ins and outs of what being an entrepreneur is really like. And then I do the marketing piece, and we
Mm.
have a person from our city that comes over and talks about zoning and different uses for different buildings and what kinds of things you can and cannot do in certain districts, and just trying to get them grounded by having so many different speakers come. It not only introduces the entrepreneurs to experts in the area, but it introduces the experts to the entrepreneurs.
Yes,
So then
excellent.
they're aware of things. They feel like they've got an inside track on what's coming out in the next couple of years. And honestly, that's like people really enjoy that. It's very community building. And then the cohort of the people that are actually in the class, they tend to really support each other pretty heavily. They show up to each other's ribbon cuttings and they purchase
Oh,
items from each other. And so that was an unintended consequence of the class, but it's been one of the most heartwarming things that we've experienced.
that's amazing. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have like a high level framework that either the one you borrowed or that you we could share out in the description? Just maybe a PDF of, because I think that this is such a cool concept. And if communities across the country could start, something similar, I think it would really foster, like you're saying, community business building. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time a business
No.
wants to start up. That's crazy. And so if we can all share kind of our areas of expertise, I think that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Well, see, I twisted her arm. I put her on the spot. Um, so that's cool. So can you talk about 2024? What do you think people should be focused on in 2024 as far as what should they make a priority for a small business? Let's say they've only been in existence for a couple years, maybe less than 5. What should they prioritize? What do you think's up and coming in 2024 that people should be thinking about?
I think my advice for 2024 is my advice basically for any year. If I would say learn how to set goals based on actual tangible data and not just on a hope and a wish and a daydream. It's you could do all of the heavy lifting of starting your business and getting it going, but if you don't know where your numbers are at, if you don't know what your sales are, and if you don't have, your finances separated, and if you don't have, then you don't know how many taxes you're supposed to pay. You don't like there's just get yourself organized, learn how to set real tangible goals, because if your goals are manageable and okay, I start here and I make this effort and this is the result, then that now becomes repeatable too. And
Right.
so if something is measurable, then it becomes repeatable. And
Mm.
so, but you have to know where you currently are existing in your income and your finances and your inventory and all that. You have to know where you're at currently, or you're not able to set goals, because you can say, I'm going to increase my sales by 20% this year.
But you
Okay,
don't know. Right.
that's real fancy. Like, that's really cute until you don't have any idea what your sales even are this year. So
So I agree with you 100% about goals. If you don't know where you've been and you don't know where you're going, basically your everyday is kind of haphazard, right? So is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah, I think a lot of people don't set goals for fear of failure, but I also think that people they fear success too,
Uh
because
huh.
it's
I agree.
when you succeed, it's kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do now? What do I do next? So that's a lot of people will hang on to or drag out their progress because they don't know what comes on the opposite side of even when you do succeed.
I I agree with that, and I've lived that. And but I just talked to someone who's starting wants to start a business who said, "Oh no, what if I get too much business?" I'm like, "Isn't that what we're trying to do here?"
Yeah.
And I think it's scary, right? Do I hire people? Do I turn people away? Do I raise my prices? What do I? But it's like that's the whole goal, right? So that fear of success
Yeah.
freaks people out.
Yeah. My husband is an ultra marathoner. He runs
Oh
like
yes,
100-mile races. And
crazy.
there's always a little bit of a vacuum after he's done with a race. And it's like when you accomplish something and when you reach the end, it's like if you don't have something preloaded on the backside of that success, then a person tends to like, because you're so anchored to the amount of training that you're doing, and you're anchored to like the lifestyle that you have to achieve that level of goal. But then once it's achieved, it's like, if you don't have something on the back end that says like, um uh, that makes you ready to move on to the next thing, then I don't want to say that it's wasted time, but it is a little bit more of a challenge.
Right. That's so interesting. But that's so interesting. I feel like that happens at the end of vacations. I feel like that happens on the backside of a
Yes.
good business year or a good business week or even a day. The next day you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah. But if you
Yeah.
think about it, I have a friend who really struggles with the fact that, like, okay, so she thinks that when you pursue a goal for a long time and then you achieve that goal, and then I get to just take my hands off the wheel. But then she gets upset when things kind of fall apart on the back end or on the
Mm-hmm.
opposite side, because it's like, well, I worked really hard. I should just be able to revel in my success, or I should be able to take a back seat. But it's this life, it takes hands-on attention if you want to get where you're wanting to go.
Agreed. Well, and that springboard effect, right? So if you have a success and you can capitalize and scaffold, if you stop the momentum, it's like a car, right? If you
Yeah.
stop the momentum, you got to get it all over again. That takes a lot more energy to get it started again than it did to keep it going. Speaking as a former physicist, well, I'm a current physicist, I guess, but I don't do that anymore. But yes, yeah, wow, that's interesting. That's good. That's good. That's good stuff. All right, so can you think of a learning moment in your journey or an aha moment as a business owner that you went, and you just like the skies parted, I don't know, whatever happens for you, but you just had that moment that you thought, wow, I got to remember this because this was pretty amazing, or I learned a lot from this very moment?
I think that there's a lot of moments in there, but the overarching theme is that there are no rules. That's, I tend to, I don't know that I'm a rule follower necessarily, but I always think, well, someone else has had to set the rules or find the path before me. And so if I just stay on the path, then then I'm golden. But it's a lot of times that there are no rules. There basically are no adults in the room, and we're all just trying to figure things out on the fly as we go, depending on what circumstances are presented to us in our life. But my biggest aha moment would have to be when I realized that our reality is entirely fabricated by our brain. And so if I wake up one day and I look around and I say, well, this is the life that I have, well, this is the life that I've designed. And so if I want a different life, then I have to go design that life. And that also brings another level of gratitude also, of saying everything that's in my life is something that I've allowed to be here. And so I can appreciate, like, okay, the life that I currently have is something that I dream would have exceeded my biggest expectations, my wildest dreams 2 years ago. And I'm sitting here currently reaping the rewards of all the effort that I made over the last 2 years. And so as my capacity expands and as my willingness to try new things expands, my life also expands. And so I can't wait to see where I'm at in 2 years based on what I'm dreaming about now.
That's amazing. Well, I can't either. You or me. I love that. So that trying to avoid those limiting beliefs, trying to realize that you do have some control, you do have some design over your life. Yeah, I used to say all the time, gosh, I'm always busy. I'm so busy. I just, everybody, I'm so busy. And then I realized, well, that's because I say yes to everything, and I like doing things. Like, I like living life. So, I like living life hard. So, yeah, wow. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, thank you, Lindsey. I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. This has been Lindsey with the Newland Company. So check out her stuff. Where can people find you? Do you have, what's your website, or if you have any social media or anything?
Yeah, I'm not very active on social, only in spurts, but I'm at Lindsey Newland on Instagram. I'm at the Newland Company on Facebook, and then the newlandscompany.com is my website. I'm currently redoing it right now, so if you go right away, just understand that it might still be down a little bit, but don't judge me. I'm redesigning it for all of the new capacity that I've learned over the last year. So
that's awesome. Well, maybe people, it would be fun. Everybody go check out our website, because then, like, check it out right away, because then you'll see how it changes. So you'll get all that growth in just a button click. So awesome. So people can reach out to you via those platforms if they want to. And either one of us reach out to us. We're happy to work with small businesses. She's out in the kind of, what do you call it? Central? Would you call yourself central?
Southeast Iowa?
South, yeah, where you're out. She's closer to the Pacific Ocean than I am in Ohio. So anyway, reach out to us. We're happy to help with your small business, get you going on the right track with any of your, like, digital systems, strategic planning, any of that. Give us a shout, either one of us. It's been great having you, Lindsey, and I just always enjoy talking to you. So thanks, everybody. Check out some of our other videos and podcasts on Future Ready Consulting YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.